that we are indeed talking about the right hemisphere of the brain, that 90%. And of course, if you look at yourself and you talk about the 90% which you operate with, the 10% being the right side which you don't touch, you then have the reason for tithing. Religion prostitutes this into taking money out of your pocketbook. Has nothing to do with that. Tithing means you give the left side, you give the 10%, and then God gives you the right side. God gives you the mind of Christ. So that's where we came, and we found that Jesus was talking about this parable, that we were placed in charge of this vineyard. Mankind was placed in charge of this vineyard. Mankind was placed in charge of actually that 90%, that right side, that right hemisphere of the brain, and all you had to do was to keep it free of weeds, which means keep it free of those thoughts which place you into guilt. There was a tower in the vineyard, it says in Matthew 21. There was a tower there. And what is the tower for? The tower is so that you can raise yourself up to a higher consciousness and watch out for the enemy who might come in to spoil the vineyard. And who is the enemy? Your thoughts. Your thoughts. When you go into meditation, you sit in the quiet time of meditation and you watch. And what you are watching for is to keep that holy place free so the vine can grow, the vine can produce the grapes can be pressed by the Spirit into wine, and the wine can flow throughout your whole being, giving you new life, giving you Christ consciousness. And that's basically where we came to last week, see. We had the tower, everything was in readiness. And Jesus says, here was the husbandman, meaning you and me, put in charge of the vineyard, which is the right hemisphere of the brain. And here comes a place of the tower where you can watch out for the enemy, which means the thoughts that come against you. And now let's go to Matthew 21, and we'll pick up where we left off last week, okay? And Matthew 21, verse 33. We learn about the householder, the vineyard, the hedge around the vineyard, the wine press in it, the tower, all of these things out, which are talking about the meditation aspect that opens up the right hemisphere of the brain. In other words, the vineyard is entrusted to us to care for it. We have it. We have it to develop the right hemisphere so that we can live in love, we can live in understanding, we can live in peace. And it says here, then in verse 34 and verse 33, in the last sentence, he let it out to a husband and went into a far country. The owner traveling to the far country doesn't mean that God is far away. It means that you are left to develop your own vineyard. A church can't develop the vineyard for you. A Bible can't develop the vineyard for you. A tradition, a religion cannot develop the vineyard for you. You have to develop that vineyard. You can't join a church here. That's why we don't have any members. Nobody can join anything. The only thing you can do is join to that which is the Christ consciousness within you, which is at the right hand of the Father. That's why Jesus sits at the right hand of the Father, because that impulse, which is the Christ mind, comes from the right side. And so then you have to be left alone to tend